Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on your Raw results and Superstar spoilers for this week. Okay, WWE Hall of Famer Jesse Ventura turned 62 years old. He was born July 15, 1951. He went on to become governor of Minnesota after his pro wrestling days. He now spends his time teasing that he will run for U.S. president. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2004. Hall of Famer Mil Mascaras, a.k.a. Aaron Rodriguez, turned 71 years old. He was born July 15, 1942. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame last year by his nephew, Alberto Del Rio. And wrestler Heath Slater, a.k.a. Heath Miller, turned 30 years old. He was born July 15, 1983. Former WWE wrestler Diva Cherry, a.k.a. Cara Drew, turned 38 years old. She was born July 15, 1975. TNA champion Billy Ray, a.k.a. Mark LaMonaco, turned 42 years old on Sunday. He was born July 14, 1971. TNA co-founder Jeff Jarrett celebrated his 46th birthday on Sunday. He was born July 14, 1967. Jarrett continues to work for the company, and at last check, he was still a minority owner. He also worked for the AAA Triple Mania event last month. And WWE legend Sean X-Pac Waltman turned 41 on Saturday and is about to return from his groin tear injury. And he was born July 13, 1972. The classic UWF show on ESPN Classic tonight had aired at 9:30 Central Time. Only listed match was Billy Jack Haynes versus Colonel De Beers. The WWE SummerSlam pay-per-view poster featured Dolph Ziggler, AJ Lee, the Bella Twins, CM Punk, Kane, and Daniel Bryan riding a roller coaster. And you could view there's a fly coming in and buzzed me in the ear there. Apologize for that. Let's see. And at the end of this video, I will post the picture of that, or you can go to indemand.com and see it. Poster should entice Mick Foley to order the pay-per-view. The event takes place on August the 18th in Los Angeles, California, at Staples Center. As of this past weekend, WWE is still planning on doing Daniel Bryan versus John Cena for the WWE title at this year's SummerSlam pay-per-view, as I predicted. But Daniel Bryan didn't win the Money in the Bank, so they did the storyline, as you will see later on in the results of this video. And the future, there will be likely to have their girlfriends involved in a Total Divas twist as the stars of the show. The Bella Twins are both dating John Cena and Bryan. The angle was set up again, like I said, on Raw, at least the first part of it. The feud between Cena and Bryan likely won't begin until, well, this was the first night after the pay-per-view, but according to the dirt sheet, it said it won't happen until after the Total Divas debut on TV. First episode. There is a plan in place to do an angle on Raw, as it was tonight, where Cena asked the fans who they want to get the WWE title shot at SummerSlam, with the idea that Bryan will be picked. Well, it was, because the fans voted for it. The Bella Twins were interviewed by New York Daily News to promote the Total Divas, and were asked about their workout routine. Nikki Bella, who was dating John Cena, who's a boyfriend, and he's taught her things that she says, one thing my boyfriend taught me is it's all about the booty and the squats. They're the key to killing cellulite and getting a bigger butt. J.A. Diamato, Leron Clark, and Ross Lupino attended Raw event from Brooklyn, New York, and sent the following updates for Superstars taping. Another returning old school wrestler It looks like it's a really hot crowd for the first ever Raw in Brooklyn. Tons of Funk defeated Primetime players as the crowd started off getting behind the players, but they did a great job playing heels to get to the crowd, chanting behind Tons of Funk. Ryback destroyed Brooklyn Brawler in his return. Probably just one night only. This is in Brooklyn. And Ryback won after an early Brawler flurry. And match number 3, The Miz defeated Heath Slater, and on his birthday. Miz cooled off the crowd before winning with the figure 4 after 3 MBs. Interference backfired with a crisp 5-minute match. And your Raw results from Brooklyn, New York at Barclays Center. The opening video kicked off, and there were pyro display on stage. Michael Coleslaw, JBL, and Jerry the King Lawler took over commentary. And Coleslaw said that there were 15,803 fans in the sellout attendance. There was a drum roll, and then Brad Maddox appeared on stage. He noted that he's been appointed the general manager. He said that the fans would be able to say they witnessed the first Raw from Brooklyn as the first night of the Brad Maddox era. He announces Alberto Del Rio versus Dolph Ziggler in a rematch from Money in the Bank. John Cena's music interrupted Maddox, and he headed to the ring with the WWE Championship in hand. Once in the ring, Cena received a lot of boos. He noted that it was the Brad Maddox era. He put his arm around Maddox and told him that this will be the only time that the person standing next to him is more hated. Maddox said that he's always admired. Cena said he's always admired Maddox ever since he was a teenager watching you on TV. Well, it was Maddox that said supposed to be saying that to Cena. Ever since I was a teenager watching you on TV, as Maddox said. He spoke about his strength and the way he treats those less privileged than he is. Maddox said that for the first time ever, he's going to let the WWE Champion choose his opponent for SummerSlam. There were immediate yes chants, and Cena teased the idea of picking a poor opponent. He mentioned Doc Hendricks, Dutch Mantell. Well, he's already on the TV, so if you don't remember, that's Dirty Dutch Mantell, who is none other than Zeb Coulter, and of course Michael Coleslaw as possibilities. Randy Orton's music played, and he walked quickly to the ring with his Money in the Bank briefcase in hand. What? Is he cashing in? Orton told Maddox that there is a very good chance that Cena won't be champion at SummerSlam. He said he didn't want to make the same stupid mistake that Cena did last year. Orton said he believes in making the most of opportunities he's been given and not squandering them. He also said that he believes in being straight up. He said that when he catches in, Cena will never see it coming. Fandango's music played, and he made his entrance with Summer Rae. Brooklyn fans started Fandangoing. Orton said Fandango interrupted him. Fandango said Orton won't be cashing in the Money in the Bank contract against Cena. He'll be cashing it in against him. Okay. The announcers then laughed. After all, he's not a champion. Fandango said that there's only one superstar the fans want to see Cena face, and then coach Cena on how to say his name. Orton punched Fandango in the face. Fandango fought back and actually cleared Orton from the ring for a moment, but Orton came back and threw Fandango to ringside. Maddox announced Fandango versus Orton as the first match of the night as they go to commercial. In my opinion, this was a pretty dang good match. So this is how they finally get to the Cena versus Daniel Bryan match that has been rumored for the last 2 pay-per-views. It's about damn time. Okay, so it's not set in stone yet, but wait. The live crowd sure seems to believe that's where it's going. I'm all for it. Maddox still hasn't done anything heelish since becoming the general manager. After all, it's only been, 10, 15 minutes in the program. In fact, Orton came off with a more heelish than the live crowd sure seemed to believe. That's where it's going. I'm all. Okay. In fact, Orton came off with more heelish than Maddox did, if you really think about it. I really like his line that Cena would never see it coming when he catches in. After all, he's a Viper. Fandango interrupting was more awkward than anything the announcers Laughing at him made me feel like he's a comedy act more than someone supposed to take seriously. And we finally get the first match, Randy Orton versus Fandango with Summer Rae. The match was joined in progress. Summer Rae champ broke out. Orton caught Fandango with a clothesline at ringside and then looked over the barricade at a kid in the front row. Or was it the MILF next to the kid? Well, Orton's single now. Anyway, he backdropped Fandango on the barricade. As the wrestlers fought back inside the ring, the JBL chant broke out. Fandango took control heading into the break. Great, a little live crowd that wants to be the show rather than watch it. Night after WrestleMania 29 wannabes. After the break, Fandango continued to control the offense and got a 2 count. They traded punches and Orton got the better of it and then performed a T-bone suplex. Orton suffered what appeared to be a minor cut on his left hand. He performed a superplex on Fandango and followed up with a power slam. Fandango battled back again and went to the top rope. But Orton recovered and tripped him up on the top rope. Orton headbutted Fandango as he was seated on the top rope. He then pulled him down to the second rope and performed the draping DDT. Orton played to the crowd and fired him up before hitting the RKO. The crowd counted along with the 3 count. Everybody in unison. Randy Orton won the match in 13 minutes even of TV time. Announcers then went from laughing at Fandango in the verbal segment of raving about the way he hung there with Orton during the match. Hopefully this is a sign that they're going to tone down some of the comedic elements of the character in favor of presenting him as an in-ring force. The announcers recapped AJ's interference getting Dolph Ziggler's disqualification at the pay-per-view. Backstage, AJ chased after Dolph and was apologetic. He told her to stop apologizing and said it was time to move on. She thought he forgave her and hugged him. No, you don't understand. It's time for me to move on from you, as Ziggler said. And that left her about to put her lip hanging up in the air and staring at her. Shot aired of Mark Henry walking backstage in his decked out suit as they go to commercial. That's what I was hoping we would see from Ziggler. It's important that he did the dumping rather than look like a joke by forgiving her only to have it happen again. As much as I am bored with the live crowds trying to take over the shows after recent what? And Husky Harris chants among other things, I must say that I would rather see a rowdy crowd like this one than a flat crowd. At least they're involved in the show somehow. Mark Henry headed to the ring wearing a suit, and as the announcers recapped his loss to John Cena at the pay-per-view by his tap-out, Henry said, Cena is one of the greatest WWE champions of all time. He said he gave it all he had and took Cena to the limit. Henry said he came this close to winning the WWE Championship. The fans responded with, "You tapped out," chants. I did tap out, Henry said. He'll tap every single one of you all too. The sexual chocolate chants were next. Well, Henry said he knows Cena has the option of selecting his opponent at SummerSlam and he wants to be that guy. Henry said he took Cena to his limit once and he will do so again. Well, then we get the Shield music playing as they headed out on the concourse together. They headed to ringside, surrounded the ring. Henry took off his jacket and fought all 3 of the guys by himself. I thought that was going to bring out John Cena, but it never happened. To help Mark Henry fight off the trio, they had him outnumbered, but Henry fought them off. Dean Ambrose applied a sleeper, and then Roman Reigns speared him. The trio put the boots to Henry, and Henry put them down with a triple powerbomb. They finally got all 400 pounds of Mark Henry up with 3 guys lifting. Of course, a holy shit chant broke out. They announced the Del Rio versus Dolph Ziggler match for after the break. I wasn't sure where they were going with Henry after he tapped out to Cena. Apparently, they're turning him babyface. It's hard to believe considering how heelish he was portrayed via the fake retirement angle last month. But I think it will work before he actually does retire because his contract ends very soon. He looked like a badass fighting off the trio for a bit, and the crowd was very receptive. Also loved the way Henry silenced the "You tapped out" chant. A graphic then boasted that the Money in the Bank was the most socially active show last night with over 35 worldwide trends. Backstage, Brad Maddox was on the phone with his mama. When Chris Jericho walks into the room, Y2J says, Maddox must be feeling pressure since this is a lot for a teenager to take on. Maddox said that the best way for Jericho to become champion is to impress Cena. He suggested Jericho face another former champion in Rob Van Dam, as the crowd roared as Jericho was hearing the crowd. And he played up to the match, RVD versus Y2J. Well, they have fought before. ECW! Remember that? Jericho told him that if he keeps making decisions like that, he'll have a hell of a future. Match number 2, World Heavyweight Champion Alberto Del Rio versus Dolph Ziggler. In a non-title match, there were loud "Let's Go Ziggler" chants. During the match, Del Rio backdropped Ziggler over the top rope. Ziggler took a crazy face-down bump, heading into a commercial break, and Del Rio continued to be the aggressor after the break, but until Ziggler caught him with a tornado DDT off the second rope for a 2 count. Del Rio regained control again, but Dolph drop-kicked him off the ropes. And Ziggler pinned Del Rio, who put his foot on the bottom rope and to get the break. Dolph went for the Famouser, but Del Rio avoided it, slipped out of the way, and then caught Ziggler with a kick in the corner. Del Rio covered Ziggler for a 2 count, which Del Rio hung Ziggler in the Trio Woe and then kicked him repeatedly. Del Rio charged at Ziggler, who sat up, causing Del Rio to crash into the corner. Ziggler then performed the Famouser off the second rope, went for the cover, but there was everybody was thinking that he was about to get the pinfall. Well, none other than AJ, who was a bell ringer, interrupted the match. For the distraction, and when Ziggler got distracted, Del Rio blasted him with the super kick and then covered him for the win. And the match took 12 minutes 30 seconds. After Del Rio left the ring, AJ entered and slapped Ziggler. She slipped out and was slapping him again. He just continued to take the slaps. Ziggler kept his cool, but when he turned around, he ended up taking a big clothesline from Big E Langston, and then picked him up again and delivered the big ending on him, and leaving Dolph in the middle of the ring. AJ knelt down to Ziggler, kissed him on the lips before shoving his head back down to the mat. Announcers then hyped that Cena will select his own opponent for SummerSlam later on in the show as they go to commercial. Ziggler had some really wild bumps. The fact he was thrown over the top rope face first. If it wasn't for his hands, he probably would have had a busted nose. Which is amazing considering how hard they worked the night before. I like the follow-up angle. They had to set Ziggler away from Del Rio 4 now. Dolph should be firmly established as a babyface now and develop momentum before he goes back into chase mode. A feud with Langston isn't ideal because they both need wins, but it's logical for a storyline point. By the way, the announcers have been praising the decisions of Maddox. He wasn't really heelish at the pay-per-view, and he definitely hasn't been yet tonight. A shot aired to the outside of the building. The new Barclays Center already needs to replace the lights used for the first A in the building name. A recap of Randy Orton telling John Cena that he'll never see it coming when he cashes in was shown. R-Truth, who has short hair now, made his "What's Up" entrance. He was about to play to the crowd afterward, but was interrupted by a Wyatt family entrance with a blackout, with the lantern entering the arena. Wyatt once again took a seat in his rocking chair and blew out the lantern. When the lights went back on, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan defeated, wasn't even barely a match because a double team, and beat up R-Truth inside the ring. Wyatt stood up slowly and entered the ring. They've been lying to you, man. Wyatt said over the house mic he said that there's no such thing as heroes. He said people are addicted by the illusion of what a hero is and what they do for them. I think I've heard this somewhere before. He said people need someone to kiss them on the cheek and tell them everything's all right. Everything's not all right, he said, in a higher pitch. What if I was to tell you that the man who made you is a liar, he said, what if I was to tell you that your own flesh and blood turned his back on you? I will never turn my back on you. As he said, maybe he has been the answer all along. R-Truth then stood back on the apron with a chair in hand. Wyatt dismissed Harper and Rowan and called Truth into the ring. He stood with his arms straight out and asked if this is what he's waiting for. Truth was distracted by Rowan as they surrounded him from behind, and momentarily Wyatt attacked Truth with punches, and then all three of them started beating down on him. Wyatt kissed Truth on the head before hitting his finisher, which was more than nothing but it's almost like Crossroads to me. Wyatt smiled and then took the mic and said, you're not the truth we seek. Kane, follow the buzzards. Whatever that meant. Jack Swagger and Antonio Cesaro are now called the Real Americans. What? Are they still Hulk Hogan's music? Hopefully not. Yeah, really, viewers were encouraged to vote for which team would face them. Commercial break. As I'm not too impressed with that tag team, I left the room. Get me a drink or something to eat. Okay, after that. And then we say, wait a minute. Bray Wyatt can talk. Husky Harris, huh? From the crowd. He's phenomenal in this role, as Rowan and Harper are awesome as his followers. They did do a better show of enthusiasm this week. The mention of Kane left me even more curious whether he will become a brainwashed member of the cult. Oh, and please tell me that Swagger and Cesaro will enter to the Real American song? Hopefully not, because that's the copyright infringement from Hulk Hogan. At ringside, the announcer spoke about Wyatt's promo. They set up a video package of the grand opening of the WWE Performance Center. Zeb Coulter led Antonio Cesaro and Jack Swagger out to their usual music and cut a promo about Brooklyn being more like a porta potty than a melting pot. He encouraged John Cena to face one of his Real Americans. The Usos got 55% of the fan vote. Tons of Funk got 27%. And the Primetime Players got last place with 18%. So, Jack Swagger and Antonio Cesaro was Zeb Coulter versus the Usos of Jimmy and Jay. Swagger and Cesaro got the upper hand early. One of the Usos caught Swagger with a super kick. Then Cesaro caught the other with a European uppercut. As the other Uso rolled up Cesaro for the win in a 2-minute, 15-minute squash match. Like I said, they ain't got it together. Not much of a tag team. But at least they put a slot in for the tag team division. The announcers hyped Rob Van Dam versus Chris Jericho for after commercial break. Kind of a throwaway match. Usos got the win and keep their momentum going, but Swagger and Cesaro haven't even been established enough as a duo for it to be really for any elevation compared to the brothers. An anti-bullying video aired with the little kids whining about being bullied online in addition to in person. What the hell are kids that age doing online anyways? It was a Sean Combs spot. Match number 4, Damien Sandow versus Christian. Before the match, Sandow headed to the ring with his Money in the Bank briefcase. Here he is, the next World Heavyweight Champion, JBL said. Also spoke about a leg injury that Sheamus suffered during the Money in the Bank. Late in the match, Sandow caught Christian with a neck breaker and laid to the crowd. Christian stood up and took Sandow down into a pin and got the win in a 3-minute match. Afterwards, Sandow took the mic and yelled, "And still your intellectual savior and Money in the Bank, Damien Sandow." Cody Rhodes hit the ring wearing a suit and attacked Sandow. Rhodes threw punches at Sandow until the referees intervened and Sandow left through the crowd. Let's go to commercial. Well, there's your next feud, Cody versus Sandow. And there's a I'll put a video link in here for this one, as one of the readers posted a note that Sheamus has a photo of a swollen leg on his Twitter. It's not pretty, and you can check out the Twitter link right here. His left leg looked a lot like Rosie O'Donnell's leg. As for the match, I was surprised to see Sandow lose. It worries me when JBL refers to him as a future champion in that. It makes me assume that he will cash in unsuccessfully. The latest 1-800-FELLA commercial aired, which I missed. A guy had the hiccups, and a co-worker tried to help him. The guy called out Sheamus and showed up and scared the guy. He still had the hiccups, so Sheamus opted to Brogue kick him from behind. Then worried whether the guy had insurance because he wasn't moving. Natural set up footage from earlier in the day with Vicky Guerrero trying to get fans to sign a petition and to reinstate her as the authority figure. Match number 5, Brie Bella with Nikki Bella versus Naomi with Cameron. I think I came back and fell asleep during this match. I don't remember none of this match. Well, Brie had Naomi locked in a weird hand on chin lock. JBL said we were seeing another side of Naomi as she is a tremendous athlete. Odd timing there. She did show some flashiness with a hurricanrana and then a couple of really light drop kicks. The fans amused themselves with Olay chants, and Naomi won with a high cross body block. And Naomi won in a decent 4 minutes 15-second Divas match. Naomi uses the Iceman King Parsons butt bump. She calls it the rear view. It's already spent too much time thinking about that match. Footage aired from after the Money in the Bank pay-per-view of a WWE Web team member trying unsuccessfully to get answers out of Paul Heyman regarding his attack on CM Punk. And Heyman finally stopped and yelled, "Stay out of my personal life." Of course, I'll recap the situation with Punk and Heyman from the pay-per-view as they go to commercial. It's odd that Heyman and Punk hasn't been a big topic of conversation until now, considering it was just such a big part of the main event. And then we got CM Punk's music playing as he headed on to the stage to a strong ovation from the live crowd. It wasn't clobbering time. Punk leapt to the ring instead. Coleslaw spoke about Punk requiring 13 staples after Heyman slammed the ladder into his head. A loud CM Punk chant broke out. "I know Paul Heyman is in the building," Punk said. "And I know Brock Lesnar is in the building. And I know I'm not waiting anymore. So come on out, boys." And Heyman walked onto the stage with a mic in hand. "You know what I'm looking at right now?" he asked. "I'm looking at an empty ring because in my world you don't exist." Heyman said that WWE had no vision for Punk in 2005. He said Punk was a figment of Heyman's imagination. He said he took Punk in, befriended him, and martyred his entire career for him. Heyman said that as he spoke about Punk winning the WWE Championship, holding the title, and coming within an inch of ending Undertaker's streak. Heyman said that without me, there is no we. He also stated that without him, Punk is not the best in the world. Heyman said people have been asking him why he betrayed Punk and calling him Judas. Heyman said that the truth is a hard pill to swallow. He said Punk failed us when he couldn't beat Undertaker at WrestleMania. He said Punk went home, and when he returned, he thought he was better than Heyman. "So I lied to you," Heyman said. "I manipulated you. I played you. Because you can never claim that CM Punk dumped Paul Heyman. No, history is going to write that Paul Heyman dumped CM Punk." Heyman said he made it as personal as he possibly could. Heyman then said Punk has no family and is estranged from his own mother and father. All you have is them. And he points around the crowd as the fans cheered. Lawler said it was becoming too personal now. Heyman said all Punk has is the fans' admiration, respect, and affirmation. The fans started chanting Punk's name. And all you want All you crave, all you need in your life is the WWE Championship, said Heyman. You took my best friend away from me, and I took your chance at the WWE title away from you and each and every one of them. Heyman said Punk will find out that as bad as his reputation is in business, he's a lot worse personally. Heyman said Punk made him swear on his children, but it was my children who made me see this so clear, he said. He recalled his kids asking why Punk doesn't listen to him and whether Brock would beat Punk. Heyman said that the harshest truth of all is that he betrayed Punk because CM Punk, you can't beat Brock Lesnar. Punk looked down and touched the staples in his head. Are you done? Punk asked, while glaring at Heyman. You want to talk about the truth? I saw firsthand last night that the truth does hurt. And maybe I should have seen it coming. But damn it, Paul, I trusted you, and now all I have to show for it is are these 13 staples in my head? Punk said Heyman knows when he's lying and when he's telling the truth. He also knows that when he wants something, he is the most relentless man on the planet. And he won't stop until he gets it. And the truth is, Paul, I'm going to get you. Punk swore on Heyman's children that he would get him. Punk said he would get everyone who conspired with Heyman, your friends, your clients, your family. As Punk said, he said he will rip apart and hurt anyone who gets between them. Now, you want the truth, Punk? Punk says the truth is you don't have a future because I'm going to burn everything around you until you're the last man standing. And I'm going to keep you alive just long enough to look you in the eye and hurt you worst of all. So tell me, you son of a... And it was censored. They cut it off. So therefore, I don't think it was live programming. And he said, bitch, as it was censored. Am I lying? As Punk said. Heyman said Punk wasn't lying. He said that since he doesn't have a future, he would spell out Punk's immediate future out for him. Heyman knelt down and did the imitation of its clobbering time. Brock Lesnar's music played and he walked out on stage with an intense look on his face as Heyman stood in the aisle. Lesnar joined Heyman in the aisle and then walked to the ring together. Lesnar shuffled at ringside with Paul sticking around him, around to the ring, and then snuck up behind Heyman and took a low blow at him. Lesnar pulled Punk to ring, or actually hit him in the back. And Lesnar pulled Punk to the ringside and went for the F5, but Punk slipped away from him. They exchanged shots, and Lesnar got the better of it and whipped Punk to the ground, but Punk got up and threw more punches back at Lesnar, but Lesnar tossed him over the announcer's table. Punk got up and dove onto Lesnar, who caught him and then drove him into the ring post. Lawler expressed concern that Punk was hurt. JBL said Brock has no heart. Lawler called out for Heyman to tell Lesnar that was enough. Lesnar then picked up Punk and performed an F5 on the announcer's table that did not break at any point. Punk bounced off the table and fell to the floor behind the table. Lesnar climbed on the table and looked down at Punk. Heyman and Lesnar then headed back up the ramp. Punk got back on his feet, held his neck, and pushed the trainers away as he got back up on his own 2 feet. He sat down and held his neck again as they went to a commercial break. Damn, that was a very hot angle. I guess it didn't have to be the topic of conversation earlier in the night, since it would end up stealing the show. Punk and Heyman were great. I know that's pretty much par for the course with them, but they actually outdid themselves there. Great intensity, great verbiage, and great delivery from both men. Lesnar looked like a badass, and Punk looked like the babyface who won't quit. And that was fantastic. That's the way you're supposed to do it. The announcer spoke at ringside about the previous angle. Lawler spoke about how it became too personal too quickly. JBL said Lesnar has no conscience or heart. And Colesall said Lesnar is the man standing between Punk and Heyman. They set up a video for Total Divas. The announcers really did a good job during the segment and the recap. As great as Punk and Heyman were, the announcers just enhanced it. Backstage segment with Great Khali approaching John Cena backstage and spoke to him in his native tongue. Cena spoke back in the same language as they went separate ways. Well, I didn't know John Cena knew Fujimi. Backstage, Stephanie McMahon spoke with Brad Maddox. Brad Maddox was on the phone again and walks up, and Stephanie's on the phone talking to somebody. Does the thing, kind of interrupts her. So he asked, "What do you think?" She asked. He started to answer, but she said she wasn't talking to him. Triple H was on the backside of Brad Maddox, as he was shown, and they agreed that he was doing a good job, but asked if he spoke with Vince. He said he wanted to, but couldn't get a hold of him. Well, Triple H and Stephanie questioned Maddox about Cena to pick his opponent on their second biggest show of the year. They made it seem like that they loved the idea, but Vince won't be too happy. Hunter said Maddox was picked for the job because he was the only person standing there. As a big pause there. And they said that they thought it would work out great. Then Hunter wished him his best of luck in your future endeavors. Hint, firing. And they walked away. RVD makes his entrance for his match against Chris Jericho. As RVD got another big reaction. More the same with the McMahon family pulling their authority figure in different directions and intentionally making the authority figure uncomfortable. For those not watching, Hunter's line was a joke, not in case of him actually firing Maddox. Y2J makes his in-ring music with it, in-ring entrance with his light bright jacket. Cole thought that RVD would have his first match on Raw in 6 years as RVD versus Chris Jericho. Van Dam performed a standing moonsault earlier on. Jericho came back and caught RVD with a nasty-looking kick to the back of the head at 2 minutes 45 seconds in. The fans had been in RVD and ECW champ mode, but they chanted Y2J after Jericho played to them and perhaps allowed RVD to recover from the kick as they go to commercial. After the commercial break, Jericho went for the walls of Jericho. He couldn't roll Van Dam over. He opted to slingshot him into the ropes instead. Later, they jockeyed for a position while going for a suplex. They ended up on their feet, and Van Dam blasted Jericho with a kick to the chops. Jericho came back with a power bomb that left Van Dam holding the back of his head. A "This is awesome" chant broke out from the crowd. Jericho missed a drop kick, and RVD went for the Rolling Thunder, but Jericho rolled to ringside. Van Dam went to the apron and moonsaulted Jericho on the floor, heading into another commercial break. After the break, Van Dam threw a couple of clotheslines, and Jericho came back with 2 shoulder blocks. Jericho went to the ropes and came off with a double axe handle. Jericho delivered a running bulldog and then missed a lion salt when RVD rolled out of the way, which was actually Jericho kind of mispositioned himself anyway. Van Dam came back with a Rolling Thunder and got a 2 count. RVD missed a kick off the second rope, but Jericho DDT'd him for a 2 count. Jericho went for the walls of Jericho, but RVD twisted out of it and then caught Jericho with a kick. Then the cut on RVD's head from Money in the Bank started to trickle down through his forehead with a little blood. Jericho went for a bulldog, but RVD pushed him off into the corner. Van Dam missed a split-legged moonsault. And Jericho came back with a lion salt for a good near fall. Van Dam came back with another kick to the head and then went to the top rope. Jericho caught him on the ropes and crossed him. Jericho went for a superplex, but Van Dam caught him off and headbutted him off the ropes. And then Van Dam somersaulted onto Jericho and covered him for a really good close 2 count. Many of the fans were standing on their feet. Jericho applied the walls of Jericho, and Van Dam struggled to reach the ropes, but he got to the ropes. Van Dam came back with another kick to the face. RVD went to the top and hit the 5-star Falls Splash for the win. The announcers raved about the match afterwards as they showed replays of it, and the match RVD won in 21 minutes 35 seconds. Announcers then hyped John Cena selecting his SummerSlam opponent after the break, which was the RVD versus Jericho, which your main event. After commercial, a highly entertaining and crowd-pleasing match. They set out to deliver a memorable match, and they came through with it. They'll both be filling it tomorrow. Van Dam keeps his momentum going, and Jericho has another passage for a future bestseller. Tulsa hyped Miz TV with special guest Paul Heyman for SmackDown. WWE wrestlers stood on the stage, and the announcers noted that Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, and Mark Henry were absent. As were the Shield and the Wyatt family. Hell, even Brooklyn Brawler, who worked a Superstars match, was out there, as were Chris Jericho and RVD. As it goes past the 10 o'clock hour, John Cena makes his entrance and walks through all the wrestlers on the stage as they actually parted ways for him. And as he's walking through, he starts walking backwards as he's thinking that somebody's going to attack him from behind. And when he gets on the stage, Cena received a lot of boos. Once his music stopped, he said it was time for him to announce who he had selected to challenge him at SummerSlam. Cena said he couldn't do it because he hasn't made up his mind. The fans started booing. Cena said superstar after superstar has told him all night long why they should face him at SummerSlam. He said he left out the most important voice, the WWE Universe. He said they don't always see eye to eye, and sometimes you're a little bit tough on me. Cena said he respects their honesty, and he would like to see a match that they want to see. For a decision this historic, I need your help, Cena said. There were a lot of fist pumping along with yes chants, so we all know that they're voting for Borgasm. Cena said that the fans were getting the hang of it. He pointed to all of the wrestlers on the stage and said he would say some names, and then the fans could tell him that how they feel about that person facing him. Cena pointed out the birthday child in Heath Slater, who received loud boos. No dice on Heath Slater, and Cena said. How about any of 3MB? More boos. He brought up Randy Orton, who received more boos than cheers. Cena brought up the Great Khali, who was booed. Cena pointed out Alberto Rio, who was also booed. Cena pointed to Chris Jericho, who received the biggest ovation that faded briefly. Then Cena pointed to Jericho's opponent, Rob Van Dam, who received a reaction similar to the same one Jericho received, but just a little less. Only followed by the faint RVD chant. He can fly, but he can't dance. Cena said before pointing to Fandango, who was booed, but I heard a lot more cheers than boos. Cena said he doesn't have his own hotline, but Sheamus does, and the fans booed him. Cena said he saw Ryback breathing heavy, more boos. Cena asked if there was anyone he was forgetting. I was hoping he would go with A-Rye. That would have been a good match, in my opinion, but Daniel Bryan was a better choice. And the Borgasm chant started. Cena asked again, and they were good. He said there were a bunch of great selections, but he made his decision now. A loud Daniel Bryan chant broke out. Cena stopped what he was saying to let the chant grow. Hey guys, I respect the beard. Trust me, Cena said. This is a guy who deserves this decision, this guy who deserves this match, and I think it's a guy who's going to make SummerSlam an awfully special occasion. Cena announced Daniel Bryan as his opponent for SummerSlam. The wrestlers on the stage looked a little surprised. Bryan emerged from the pack, pumping his fist in the air, and raced to ringside with leading the Borgasm yes chant, while standing on the ropes and doing the Borgasm right in front of Cena's face. Bryan entered the ring and looked at Cena and then did the Borgasms again. As they were standing face to face in the show, Bryan continued to play to the crowd while Cena watched. Bryan stood on the ropes leading the Borgasms as the chant closes the show. I like the end result of Cena's selection segment, but I don't think it was a bright move for WWE to set up so many of their top wrestlers to be booed or receive mediocre fan responses. I really didn't like Alberto Del Rio being out there since he's already World Heavyweight Champion and should be kept away from something like this if he's not getting it. Again, though, I like the end result, and I'm really looking forward to SummerSlam with Cena versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. And my prediction, Daniel Bryan will go over and win the WWE Championship. And a couple of friends of mine are saying that if Daniel Bryan wins, Randy Orton catches in and wins in less than 30 seconds. Well, and you also get Lesnar versus Punk in the top 2 spots for SummerSlam. Overall, this was a quality follow-up to the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. It was a big draining because they threw a lot at viewers tonight. The Punk and Heyman segment alone was worth the 3-hour investment. The Wyatt family had a better second week than the first week. And RVD versus Jericho was a lot of fun. And the dark match main event, thanks to Jay Amato, who attended the Raw event in Brooklyn, New York, and sent the following on what happened after Raw went off the air. John Cena defeated Ryback in another table match to retain the WWE Championship. A solid Raw, hot crowd. The Barclays Center is beautiful. WWE is returning for a house show on September 8th. Wow, less than like 2 months away. Not August, September. Yep, 2 months away. And thanks to David Valeska passing along that the pre-sale for the September 8th live event starts tonight and runs through Thursday at 10 p.m. Central Time with WWE Live as the pre-sale password. And thanks for viewing. Again, good night.